All right, beautiful. Okay, my friends. Today is Tuesday. So we're holding in middle of learning about leprosy. So we've been studying about this magical, spiritual kind of a sickness that would bring leprosy on a person, as we'll see soon, if they gossiped. And it's a pretty cool thing that you break out with a physical ailment. And you have to go to the Kohen, to Yehuda here, not to the dermatologist. You'd go to get that furniture and show your thing to Yehuda, and Yehuda will tell you, I learned in the Chumash class that this is leprosy or it's not leprosy. So Yehuda, I hope you're listening very carefully, so you know what to share with everybody to let them know if they have leprosy or not. So also today, interesting, we will learn about once the Kohen concludes that the person has leprosy, what they need to do, what's the next steps that they need to take. So let's learn inside today. Now we were learning about lesions on the hair. So we said, remember, and we're going to actually, Rashi is going to sum it up. Maybe I'll share it with you now a little bit here. Let me just see some of the differences between the types of leprosy. Let me go over it. So how many different kinds of leprosy are there? Depends on the location on your body where it came out. So we learned so far, there is regular leprosy, which is on your skin. And we said that there are 4 shades of white, right? The Kohen would determine if those are the right shades to be considered leprosy. If you had maybe some other color, as we'll see today, it wouldn't count on your skin, but maybe elsewhere it would be considered leprosy. So you can have leprosy on your skin, and then you could have leprosy on your hair. Or we discussed leprosy on a wound, or leprosy on post burn. And we're discussing all the cases the leprosy could break out. Today we're going to say what happens, right? Yesterday we said that if the leprosy comes out on your hair, the fact that you have a black hair turned white, I believe that's meaningless. That doesn't make you impure. But if you have a black hair turned yellow, then if that's where your beard is or where your head of hair is, then if the black hair turned yellow, then that's a sign of leprosy on the area where you grow hair. But what happens if you're bald? So that's today's Chumash. That's what today's Chumash is going to start with. If it grows on your hair where you have hair, you're not bald yet, then if the hair turns yellow, that's a clear indicator that you have leprosy. If the black hair turned yellow, that shows that you have leprosy. But what happens if it's on your head, but you're bald? And we're going to talk about baldness today. That's in today's Chumash. We're talking about a person becoming bald. V'haya, verse 40, verse men. V'haya ki yemarit roshai. And it will be that if someone's getting older and he starts losing his hair, yemarit roshai, I mean, every guy loses his hair at a different point in time. Keirachu, on the back of his head. So because you could have either losing your hair on the front part of your forehead or in the back. Okay, so he loses the hair on his head. Over there, we're not going to follow the lesions, the tsaras, the leprosy that the person normally has on his head, because you don't wait for the black hair to turn yellow anymore, because he doesn't have hair there anyway. If he would have hair there, then it takes on the special rules of leprosy where you have hair. But if you have no hair, then it doesn't follow. It follows now the same rules as if you had a leprosy on your skin with no hair. So once you become bald, you do not diagnose him anymore with the leprosy of the hair. You diagnose him if he has leprosy of the hair. Taru, he's pure because he doesn't have hair there, and therefore he's not only subject to the rules of leprosy on the hair. What he is subject to, as we'll see, is the leprosy of the skin that has no hair, not on his head and beard part of the body. That is the leprosy, which means if a black hair turned white, that will indicate that he has leprosy, because the forehead now became like the rest of the body since he's bald. Ve'emi pas panav yemarit. So he says, if he loses his hair, mipas panav, from the forehead forward, from the slope of your forehead down, which you usually start to lose your hair. Most people, the hair starts to recede. Gibeachu, tarhu. At that point, he's considered a gibeach. He's a bald guy that lost his hair on the front. So if he lost his hair, by the way, just so you know the terms, if you lose your hair from the forehead back, you're called a kireach, a karachas, If you lose your hair, when most people start losing their hair in the front, it's called a gibeach. So either way, if you lost your hair and then you grow leprosy, the leprosy that would have indicated that you have leprosy, the kind of spots that would have indicated before when you had hair, will not work. And if you do have that kind of a leprosy, which is a yellow hair, that will not be an indicator that you have tsaras because you don't have hair there anymore. But if you have, we are again a karachas or gabachas, which you lost here towards the front of your head or lost here towards the back of your head, lava, nega lava nadamdam, it's a pinkish color, white or white or pinkish, which is the normal color for all of leprosy. Saras, perachas, he has leprosy. We're going to consider him to be a leper. He's going to consider to be a person with saras, with leprosy, because his forehead now takes on regular skin. So we're almost done really diagnosing all these things. I know we've gone through very detailed, almost like a doctor here. We're really going through all the details. But just to recap that there are some nuanced differences. Rashi here, there's a long Rashi here that mentions the nuanced difference. I want to share with you what they say. So here you go. Here are the nuanced differences that we have over here. Okay. I thought there's a Rashi on the next verse. I'm surprised that there's not. So here's I'm going to share with you the differences. So like here's how it goes. There are 4 colors of white that we spoke about that are indicators that it's leprosy. When the spot is leprosy, okay? And those are, the shades of white are white of snow white like snow, which is very highlight, strong white, or white like a baby wool, or white like whitewash when you wash something, the suds, I guess, or white like on the membrane of an egg. Those are the 4 color whites. Those work for regular leprosy on the skin, okay? And usually it's 2 weeks quarantine. So in other words, if the kohen can't determine in the first week if it's leprosy or not, he will wait a second week. However, there's also leprosy that develops after you got a burn or after you got a wound on that scab. And that leprosy does not have a 2-week time period of quarantine, a 1 week and then another week. It's only 1 week, and the kohen has to make his determination, will make his determination after 1 week whether it's impure or not. So in regular quarantine, regular leprosy, you will possibly have, if the kohen can't determine after 1 week quarantine, he will set you in for a second week and then determine it. But if it comes on a wound or a burn on the scar after it starts healing, you get leprosy, that will only be a 1 week procedure. And after 1 week, the kohen will determine if it's leprosy or not. Leprosy in the hair, it doesn't go from a black to white color as it does in other cases. Over there, as I've been mentioning, it has to go from black to yellow. Otherwise, in the rest of the skin, it goes from black to white, and those are the colors. Anyway, that's the bottom line. That we went through the basics for it. So, but let's see what happens once you determine that he's impure. In verse 43, and the kohen will see him. V'hinei says hanegel levana adam demes. He sees that the blotch is the correct one to determine that he's impure. In this case, that it's pink on his forehead, or any other. Rashi tells us that it's in any other kind of a case that you see that he has leprosy, and the kohen determines that you're tamei. Either on his forehead where he has no hair and it has the normal kind of leprosy. The bottom line is verse 44. You say, look, the kohen said we determined that he has leprosy. The kohen should say he is tamei. So you go to the kohen, and whatever, without getting into all the medical things now, again, for whatever reason, the guy determined that you have leprosy. You have leprosy. You're a leper. You're a person that has leprosy, and he says you're tamei. You're impure. So what do you do? Verse 45, Mem Hey. This is what the person has to now do. The leper that has the leprosy, he has to tear his garments that he was wearing when he's declared to be a leper. His garments have to be torn. And then he has to let his hair grow long. Let his hair out. Let his hair grow long, like unkempt, like wild, He rips his clothes. What does it mean? What does it mean rips his clothes? I guess it's like shiva, I believe. It's like an avel. So you not rip your whole clothes. Maybe just rip. I didn't look this up, but I guess it just means actually you rip like you rip by shiva. And you let your hair grow long. right? Like, which also are some people do as signs of mourning. Veroishia Perua al Svasam Yata. He takes the hood, he wears a hoodie, and he covers his head down to his mustache. He covers the head all the way down, covers his eyes, all the way down to his mustache, it says. Like a mourner. The guy's in mourning. He's impure. And anybody who wants to come near him, he says, sorry, you can't come near me. I am impure. I am tamei. You're not allowed to go near me. I'm not allowed to stand near anybody. It's a pretty, humiliating experience. Verse 46, and for how long does this guy have to tell everybody he's impure? You're not allowed to come next to him. Kol yama v'sharanega boy, as long as he has this sickness, this spiritual sickness, this ailment that he has, leprosy, he has to say, Yitma, he is impure. Tami who badad yeshem chutz lamachna. He has to sit alone outside all three camps. So if you remember, we learned the center of the Jewish people was the tabernacle, or the Beis Hamikdash was the Temple Mount. Later on in history, then around that went the camp of the Levites, surrounded the Beis Hamikdash, which is like Jerusalem surrounding, which is like not Jerusalem. It's like the Temple Mount. We have the temple, then you have the Temple Mount, and then you have Jerusalem surrounding it. So the third camp is like Jerusalem, or like the Jewish people that surrounded the Levites. That's the third camp. And this guy has to not just leave the temple, not just leave the Levites, and not just leave the Israelite. He also has to leave the Israelites. He has to leave all the Jewish people. He has to literally go out, go away from the Jewish people, and sit and dwell alone. Now, there's a debate here if alone means is he allowed to hang out with other lepers, or he has to even not allowed to hang out. He can't quarantine with the other lepers. He has to also quarantine all by himself. Let's see what Rashi says here. Rashi says, why is this guy worse than all other impurities? We know there's other people, there's a person, a male who has an emission, or someone's been to a funeral, is also impure. But nowhere else does it say that this guy has to sit outside even the Israelite camp. The other people that are impure could still stay home in the regular Israelite camp. They can't be in the Levite camp. They can't be in the Temple Mount. Can't be in the temple, but they're allowed to be in the regular Israelite camp. So Rashi tells us this guy is worse than anybody else because what he did was he was gossiping. The guy who broke out with leprosy was gossiping. And you know what? He made a fight between a husband and wife. He caused strife. And he caused strife between friends. He went and brought up bad things. And therefore, because he made people separate from each other, his punishment is indicative of what he did. And therefore, he too now has to sit separate than the rest of his friends. He has to sit separate than the rest of the people. So he's actually suffering the consequence of what he did to other people. And therefore, he has to sit outside, away from all the Jewish people. You are excommunicated, basically. This guy is excommunicated from the Jewish people. Even some opinions are hold. He can't even sit with anybody else. He has to sit all alone, all by himself. Some people say he could sit with a few other people that also have leprosy. What about the clothes? Va'beged now goes on to talk about a very interesting topic. And it's going to tell you that not just could your body, because it's a spiritual element, break out with this sickness, but your clothes. It's almost like a fungus, like a thing that the leprosy can also break out on your clothes. Let's learn about that, a little bit about the clothes. I'm going to finish with that in the Chumash today. And you have clothing, and now all of a sudden, magically, your clothing start breaking out with leprosy. Okay, it could either be a woolen garment, it could be a linen garment, the way they used to thread. It was called I don't know if I'm reading the words right, the warp, the different way, they have, you pick up a thread, you put a thread through. So whatever side, the horizontal way, the vertical way, whatever side the threads were going, it could have been on the wool of the garment, it could have been a leather garment, it could have been a garment that the wool wasn't fully finished, it could have been, like a very good leather garment that was fully produced, anything, any kind of clothing that this leprosy shows up on. But what color is it? It's not like the color of the 4 shades of white that we've been learning that come on the body. You want to know what color it will look like on the clothes? A bright green, a dark bright green, or a damdam, or a bright dark red. Those are the 2 shades that will indicate that you have leprosy on your clothing. And it could come out either on leather, on skins, right? Either threads, either way it's going, the way the threads are in the clothes, or any kind of vessel, negateras, who, if it has this bright red or green mark, It's leprosy. You bring these to the kohen. Say, kohen, my clothes broke out. All of a sudden, my shirt, I was wearing my shirt, and all of a sudden I have these bright green blotches or these bright red blotches. Please tell me if this is taras, is this leprosy? The kohen will take your shirt, he'll start looking at it. He'll put, he has a special shelf or puts it somewhere. He locks it up for 7 days because he's not sure. So what's going to indicate that it's leprosy? What did we learn before? If after 7 days, remember, on your body it spreads, that's a giveaway. That's a clear implication. That's a clear indicator that it's leprosy. And he'll see the leprosy on the 7th day. He takes it out of the closet. And he sees that this bright red or bright green starting to spread. On the clothes, on either threads of the clothes, or all kinds of leather, any kind of leather, worked leather or not worked leather. This is saras, malignant saras, and the clothing is impure. So your clothes actually broke out with this magical form of leprosy. Not just did you get it on your skin, but it actually broke out on the garment. So what do you do now with the clothes? Now that the kohen has determined it's no good, and he burns the clothes. You have to throw it in the fire. Takes the clothes and he burns the clothes. Either way the threads were going, in the wool or the pishtim or linen, you got to burn it. Oil is called klior, or any kind of vessel of leather. Because it is malignant saras, it's unholy, as Rashi says, it's like cursed kind of. The eish to saraf, you have to burn it. So if your clothes can have a brand new suit, from a very beautiful suit, unfortunately you broke it in saras, you can't just send it to the cleaners to get rid of it, but you send it to the kohen, and the kohen does an examination. The kohen sees after 7 days it continues to spread. He now knows it's for sure malignant saras, and now it has to be burned. However, Rashi does say, if there's a hem that's made out of a different material, let's say you have a fancy hem around the item that's not the same material that the clothes came on, and people were very careful with their clothes. They didn't just go buy easily new clothes. You can actually unsew, take off the hem off the clothes, and keep that clothes, keep the hem, because it's only the rest of the clothes that broke out with leprosy. So, but what happens if after 7 days, so he takes it out of the closet and he sees the leprosy has not spread, so he doesn't have any more clear indicator that this is leprosy. Didn't come out in any of these of the garments or directions, a warp or woof, the different threads that go in the garment. So what does he do? Verse Nun Dalet 54. He washes the whole garment together with the thing, and he puts it back into quarantine, closes the clothes back up, and he will check, as we'll learn tomorrow, to see if the thing came back or not. And that is the end of today's Chumash. So very interesting. We learned about clothing can get leprosy, and we learned about the punishment for the person who broke out with leprosy, that when his body breaks out with leprosy, his punishment is that he has to go away from the Jewish people because he caused separation between other people. That's his punishment. Any questions or comments on today's interesting Chumash? Be good? Everybody got it? You got the whole medical procedure? 4 shades of white. If it's in the hair, it needs to be a yellow. It needs to be a yellow color. If you don't have hair, it needs to be a white color to determine